What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another fantasy basketball episode here on the Fantasy Fellow Show. It's my first fantasy basketball video of the season. I apologize for not doing one at the beginning of the year, but we're going to try and do going forward is we're going to try and put out one waiver wire video per week. Usually on Sundays or Mondays, I'll upload this. So we're going to go over all of the top waiver wire ads that you should be looking at for the week. I also want to show you guys a really cool website called #basketball. If you go to #basketball.com, and you're looking at the homepage here, they do have here, let me zoom out a little bit. They have the schedule tab where it shows the advanced NBA schedule grid, and you just click on the week. So we're entering week 8 here, and it's really nice because it just shows you how many games a team plays, who they play, and when. So we'll hit filter here by games. There's a couple teams that only play 2 games this week, so I'm not really excited to add Portland Trailblazers or Spurs players. And they have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday off here, so that's not ideal at all. And then if you filter it again, we have most teams play 4 here. It looks like half the league plays 4 games. A lot of teams playing on Monday, Wednesday nights. So we're probably going to be looking at most of these teams here with 4 games. And then again, I'm not super excited about adding Blazers and Spurs. So that's again, #basketball.com. That's their advanced schedule grid. I might even put a link in the description for you guys if you want to check it out. But let's hop over. Again, I play on ESPN Fantasy. The leagues that I play in are a points league. I don't do any kind of 9 categories or anything like that. I only play in one fantasy league, and it is a big points league, head-to-head points week for points for the week. But let's get into it. I first want to show you guys a couple of the things that I look at when I'm trying to search for waiver wire guys, and it's always this plus minus tab. We'll go ahead and hit that, and we'll see who's been the hottest ads of late. And then there's a couple other things that I like to do. So that already filters things for me. But I also like to use the stats tab. I want to look at the last 7 days, the last 15 days, the last 30 days. I think a good number is kind of the last 15 that shows me who's been playing well over the last 2 weeks. And essentially, I mean, if you play in 10 or 12-man fantasy basketball leagues, anybody kind of under 50% owned is probably a pretty good pickup. So we'll look at some of the names here, and I'm looking at the percent rostered tab as well. It looks like Killian Hayes has been the best pickup over the last couple. And I think the way the plus minus works is this is over the last 7 days. So people have been adding him a lot. He's up 12%. So Killian Hayes averaging 27.9 fantasy points per game. 19.6% rostered. He's a guy here that I think sparks our interest. His minutes have been up significantly. You see the fantasy points here, 29, 36, 30, 36, 45. He is a pretty good ad right now. And if you do play categories leagues, he's going to touch 4 categories per night here. He's kind of points, rebounds, assists, and steals. So I think this is the guy that you really like. And then the other thing I look at here is season stats over the last 7 days. So his minutes are up, his points are almost doubled, rebounds about the same, assists are up, steals are up, and blocks, whatever. That's fine. But over the last 7 days, Killian Hayes, definitely a guy we want to be interested in. And you want to build out your watch list. So go ahead and tap the watch list button here. I play in a league that's pretty competitive, so a lot of these guys are already rostered. But anyways, up next we have Kelly Olynyk. He's 47.3% rostered, and he's averaging almost 32 fantasy points per game. He's got a lot of big games here. You see 35, the dud was 13, but 34, 40, 31, 35, 30. This is the player that needs to be owned, and you see his minutes are up, playing in the low 30s, up, sometimes mid 30s here. And this is a guy that can touch 5 categories. So I like Kelly Olynyk a lot. Again, he's probably owned in most competitive leagues, but double check. Up next is Marvin Bagley. He's averaging about 31.6 fantasy points over the last 15 games and under 25% rostered. So this is a player here who's on the rise right now. If you play again in 10 or 12-man leagues, this could be a guy that's on the end of your bench. And I do like that he's got dual eligibility, power forward and center. So this is the guy that I like. How many games do the Pistons have? Pistons got 4 games. So you should be looking at Killian Hayes, should be looking at Marvin Bagley the third. Up next is Trey Murphy the third. A pretty good shooting guard, small forward here for the New Orleans Pelicans. He's averaging 32.7 points per game over the last 15 days and only 20% rostered. So this is a guy that you could probably add in most leagues. And I mean, look at this. The last 5 games, 27, 29, 37, 34, 29. That's fantastic production. And look at the categories here. He's not going to wow us. He's not a double-double guy on any given night here, but he's going to score and he's going to chip in on all the categories. So I love to see that. And his last 7 days, everything is up. Assists are down a little bit, but everything looks like it's up. So Trey Murphy, that's a fantastic ad. And again, I love adding players with dual eligibility. So look for Trey Murphy. Up next, Cole Anthony, who is, I think, returning from injury. Let's look at his numbers here. He's been back for 3 games. Points are okay. Rebounds, assists, steals. He's going to touch 4 categories most nights here. He has a wide range of outcomes. You see his first game back was 16 fantasy points, but then 41, 26. He's probably going to settle in somewhere in the high 20s points per game. So get him if you can. He's probably rostered. Up next, a guy that's widely available for the Sacramento Kings is Malik Monk. He's about 18% owned, and he's averaging 26 fantasy points per game. Some nice numbers here. Good scorer, and he does, chip in assists and steals a lot. So if you like assists and steals and categories, this is the guy that I think you can stash on the end of your team. And basically, I can keep going down the list here. I'm just going to kind of call off some of the players that, speak to me. I like Shake Milton a lot, as long as, James Harden and a lot of the other guys are out. Milton's been a pretty good player since, about early, or I guess mid-November, when he got put into the starting lineup. So you see this Milwaukee bump from 31 minutes all the way up. So he's playing a lot. I'm not sure when James Harden and Tyrese Maxey return, but as long as they're out, Milton needs to be rostered. And what I'm looking for when I make my pickups here, I want my players to be averaging more than 20 fantasy points per game. If my worst player on my team can hit 20, I'm feeling pretty good about my squad. So Malik Monk, Shake Milton, Jaren Jackson's owned. Aaron Gordon's probably owned. Bol. Here's Justice Winslow. Here's a guy who's 7.8% rostered, and he's averaging almost 23.5 fantasy points per game, playing a lot of minutes. You look at the minutes here, he's in the mid to upper 30s, and the fantasy points look pretty solid here. 27, 29, 29, 27, 27, 28. Super consistent. He's kind of like a 3 or 4 category player here with the points, boards, and steals, or the assists. He'll chip in on steals every now and then, as well as a block. So Justice Winslow looking pretty good. Nick Claxton's owned. Bruce Brown can be picked up. Shooting guard for the Nuggets. He's about 23% rostered, almost 30 points per game over the last 15. Isaiah Stewart, only 22%, and he's got that nice dual eligibility as a center power forward. He is 23% rostered, and he's averaging 28 points per game. So he's a big find. Maybe Markelle Fultz. He's not really doing so well, but in deeper formats, sure. Derek White probably should be picked up. Caleb Martin picking it up here. He's got 29 fantasy points per game over the last 15 days. He had some big bangers in here, but I think it's because he's in the starting lineup, so we'll see. But his minutes have dropped the last 2 games. But still, if he can return to these high minutes, that's going to be a good fantasy play. So that's just one way I like to look. Again, we're using the percent rostered tab and just hitting the plus minus. Now, there's another thing that I like to look at, and it's going to be over the last 15 days. So I'm going to leave that here. I'm just going to hit average. And then, Anthony Davis over the last 15 days, averaging 66 points. That's fine. But now that I have that filtered, I'm going to look down the percent rostered tab. Guys that are 100% owned, we're not going to be able to get them. But I'm going to keep going down this list, looking at this column, and I'm going to look for like the first couple numbers that stick out. So everyone's kind of in the 90, 99s. Again, anything under like 70, 80%, that's what I want to look for. There's Shake Milton, one of the first players on the list. So he's a priority ad, I would say. I don't know why Steven Adams is only 48% rostered. He's out right now, but that one should be a good one. Let's look at Steve Adams here. What's up with him? He's got a hip injury, sore right hip. He's probably just taking a night off tonight. So he's definitely worth an ad if you can get Steven Adams. Let me go down to the next page here. And again, I'm just looking down the percent rostered tab to see who sticks out. Aaron Gordon, only 66% rostered. He's an ad. There's Trey Murphy III. We covered him already. Dylan Brooks, only 60% rostered. He needs to be scooped up. There's DeAnthony Melton, the other Sixers point guard, shooting guard, about 27% rostered. He's putting up 32 fantasy points per game. So that's a good one. We talked about Marvin Bagley here. There's Norman Powell. What's up with Powell? He's got the red O here. Powell has been ruled out with a groin. He's been missing a couple games. If people are dropping Powell, he's worth a stash, especially if you have IR spots. So I like him. He's 21% rostered, and he had been averaging 31 points per game. So this is just a tool that I like to use. And then the cover guy here, Cameron Payne. As long as Chris Paul remains out, Payne's only 24% rostered, averaging about 30 points per game. High minutes, high in assists. He gets steals a lot too, so he's kind of a 4 category guy. A bad game is going to be about 15 points, but he does blow up at random times. So Cameron Payne needs to be scooped up as long as Chris Paul's out. We covered Bruce Brown. Mason Plumlee, I don't get this one. Plumlee is only 18% rostered, but he's averaging 30 points per game. Having a great season. He's almost averaging a double-double. You can see a lot of double-doubles on his spreadsheet here. He'll have a bad game every now and then, a 14, a 17, and 18, but you see the 36s and a couple 40s on here. It looks really good for Plumlee on a pretty depleted Hornets team right now. So go pick him up. And then one guy that piqued my interest right here was Jarrett Culver. Now, I'm not sure if he's just benefiting from some guys being out the other day with COVID, but back-to-back 30-plus minute games, 10 points, 9 points. He's going to get rebounds. He's going to get steals, putting up a good amount, like about 29 to 30 fantasy points per game. So keep an eye on Jarrett Culver. I'm going to add him to my watch list. And then just to show you guys like what I'm dealing with, I'm going to filter by all available on my league. My league's pretty beat up. So Culver is an ad for me, probably. I would say Grayson Allen, definitely. Maybe Torrey Craig as well. Let me see if anybody else sticks out. I was using Terrence Mann a little bit, but my fantasy leagues are pretty sharp and they get pretty depleted. So that's why I'm saying, like, you can get anybody over 20 fantasy points per game. That is a must add. So that's going to do it. If you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comments. I might do some fantasy basketball live streams. I'm just so involved with football that it takes a lot of my time in my weeknight, so I'm not quite full go into fantasy basketball, but I will plan on doing it soon. We're going to continue to do these waiver wire shows and hopefully get some live basketball streams throughout the week for you guys. So I'm still going to do my football schedule, but we're going to start to ramp up the fantasy basketball content. So thank you guys so much for your time. If you're new, please definitely subscribe. Let's get over that 600 number. Check out thefantasyfellowship.com if you're into looking at football. And yeah, thank you guys. Have a good one. Peace.